A ghostly intruder captured in someone's living room, shapes walking through rooms that are supposedly empty, a strange figure creeping around someone's property before vanishing. These are unexplained figures caught clearly on CCTV footage. If I were to tell you there was a mysterious figure in this image, what would you think I was talking about? I mean, you'd probably start scanning all the dark, shadowy areas trying to pick out some vaguely human shape lurking in the corner, but no, the mysterious figure is actually the person right in the middle of the frame. Yeah, nobody knows who that is. This image was posted to Reddit by Defend Aloha. It comes from a friend of his named Kimberly. One night in August of 2019, Kimberly came home sometime between 1 and 2 in the morning. She was gonna head upstairs to let her dad know she was home, but then she heard a strange noise. She quickly checked the main floor before going upstairs. Everything seemed quiet, but the moment she reached the top of the stairs, the home alarm system went off. Her phone lit up with a warning saying an intrusion had been detected. Her dad rushed out of his bedroom and tried to get the rest of the family into one upstairs room while he checked the house. Room by room, everything looked normal until he opened the door leading into the garage. The garage door to the outside was wide open. Around the same time, Vivint, the security company, called to check if the family was safe. And since no one was found inside the house and there was no immediate threat, they ended the call. But then another alert came through. The security camera in the living room had detected movement and sent a notification including a video clip. This was the thumbnail. The problem was, when they played the actual video, there was nothing there. They scrubbed through frame by frame. It was just an empty room the entire time. The figure only shows up in that thumbnail. And no, it wasn't Kimberly. She wasn't wearing anything close to what the figure appeared to have on, and it certainly wasn't her dad. So just who or what the hell was creeping around their house that night? This next clip was posted to Reddit by Gabber Flasm, who said the footage was sent to him from his mom's security camera. Watch the trees in the background here. Figure walks through the forested area behind the property and seemingly vanishes after crouching down. The Redditor said it's his brother in the video and that he never heard or saw anyone at the time. And no nearby neighbors would be walking on the property like that either. And even if this was some stranger skulking through the forest, what's the explanation for them disappearing like that? This next video comes from the YouTube channel Aloha Treasures. So this woman has security cameras on the inside and outside of her home and said that strange things had been going on lately. She'd been seeing things in the house, but she got confirmation one day when she saw a mysterious shadowy figure show up on the living room camera, standing in a doorway. So she jokes about how it could be her ex-husband breaking into her house, but I mean, yeah, it could be though. I mean, this is not a case of a bug on the lens or like dust floating around creating what looks like a shadowy shape. No, someone is definitely in that room. Ever seen a car accident involving a ghost? Well, you're about to. So these guys were cruising through the parking lot when something runs out in front of the car. A dark, shadowy shape. And this has nothing to do with the camera because the car stops and two people get out thinking they've hit something. Clearly they saw what the camera picked up. They look all over though, but find no signs of an injured animal or anything like that. Whatever the thing was, it wasn't there anymore. Reddit user 1ondo1ants posted this next clip. His motion-activated security camera picked up someone or something seemingly floating into his house. Luckily, there was no sign of an intruder though. In fact, those sliding doors by the back deck, they were always closed and locked up at night. So his mind was partially at ease, but not entirely. What the hell was captured on camera here? It looks like it floats right through the glass. The footage left him pretty shaken up, and he doesn't really like thinking about it. His grandmother had died just months before this was captured, and his mom thought it was her watching over them. I don't have much context for this next clip. Apparently it's CCTV footage captured at a school though. It's hard to spot at first, but keep your eyes on the second floor. A dark figure dashes across the walkway at a pretty decent clip too. It's semi-translucent and impossible to make out any features. Is it just a case of poor quality camera, or Is something more mysterious going on here? What are all your thoughts? Leave your comments down below. John Wheeler was a high-level guy in DC. He'd worked as an aide for 3 different presidents. It was a big deal in the defense world. On New Year's Eve in 2010, his body was found by a worker at a landfill in Wilmington, Delaware. He'd been beaten to death and thrown into a trash bin. When the police looked at CCTV from the days before he died, they found footage that didn't make any sense given his background. On December 29th, the camera in a parking garage caught Wheeler looking totally lost. He was in his suit, but he was missing one of his shoes and was carrying it around in his hand. He looked confused and was wandering through the garage like he didn't know where he was. He told people at the garage that he had been robbed, but he never called the cops. The medical examiner confirmed that this was a homicide, but beyond that, the case is still a total mystery. Trevor Dalia worked for a bank in Dublin. He went missing after a Christmas party in December of 2000. For years, the investigation didn't have much to go on, but in 2017, this CCTV footage was released. The footage shows Trevor walking home at 4 in the morning in a heavy downpour. As he passes a bank, there's a man in a dark hoodie standing there in the shadows of the doorway. As soon as Trevor passes by, the man in the hoodie steps out and begins following him. The camera further down the street catches Trevor again a few minutes later, and the same hooded figure is still right there, trailing behind him. That was the last time Trevor was ever seen. The police looked closer at the earlier footage. They realized the man had been waiting outside the bank for over 30 minutes before Trevor showed up. It looked like he was specifically waiting for someone. Because of the low camera quality and the hood, his face is never clear, and he's never been identified. On the morning of September 14, 2007, a boy named Andrew Gosden did something completely out of character. He was a gifted student with a 100% attendance record at his school in Doncaster, England. That morning, he didn't go to class. Instead, he waited for his parents to leave for work, then went back inside his house, changed out of his school uniform into a black slipknot t-shirt and jeans, and headed to a local ATM. He withdrew money, nearly everything in his account, and bought a one-way train ticket to London. The only confirmed footage of Andrew from that day comes from the CCTV cameras at King's Cross Station. He arrived at 11:20 a.m., and the video shows him walking through the station and heading out the main exit 5 minutes later. He didn't look at all distressed. Sadly, the police didn't actually pull this footage for 27 days. By the time they realized Andrew had even gone to London, almost every other camera in the city had already looped over its footage. So these short clips are the only visual leads they have. There was no evidence he used the internet to meet someone. He didn't even have an email address. The whole thing is just very strange. In December 2009, 30-year-old Stephen Kocher left his home in St. George, Utah, and drove his car 2 hours away to a residential neighborhood in Henderson, Nevada. He didn't have any friends or family there. He didn't even tell anyone that he went. The only evidence of his arrival is a grainy shot from a neighbor's security camera in a cul-de-sac. The footage shows Stephen parking his car at the end of the street and walking across the pavement. It's hard to make out, but he's carrying something, possibly a folder or some papers, and that's it. He never returned to his car, and he was never seen again. When the car was found abandoned a few days later, his keys and cell phone were missing, but his clothes and other personal belongings were still inside. His phone continued to ping in that area for 2 more days before it finally died, but searches of the surrounding desert and neighborhoods turned up. In June 2009, a man using the name Peter Bergman checked into a small hotel in Sligo, Ireland. From the start, his behavior was strange, and almost all of it was captured on CCTV. Over several days, cameras followed him, walking calmly through the town, always wearing the same black outfit and carrying a purple plastic bag. Multiple cameras catch him stopping at random locations, taking items out, carefully disposing of them in public trash bins. He does this repeatedly, methodically. It's like he's making sure no single bin gets too much attention. When police later reviewed the footage, they realized he disposed of every personal item he owned. No ID, no labels on his clothes, no paper trail. Even the name Peter Bergman turned out to be fake. On June 16th, CCTV shows him leaving his hotel for the last time and heading toward a secluded beach. His body was found days later, dead from drowning. There's tons of footage of him. We clearly see his face, but no one's ever come forward to identify him.
Next up, we have 3 incredibly strange videos captured on home security cameras that might just give you nightmares. These videos were shared to social media platform TikTok by Mandy, a mother of 2 who became incredibly disturbed after her Ring camera alerted her to movement taking place outside of her home. In the video, you can clearly see the shadow of a person standing to the right side of the camera, but what's really creepy here is the audio. In an almost witch-like voice, the figure says, "Let me in," before it begins scratching on the door and trying to open it. After the incident, Mandy began to monitor her cameras much more closely, and to her dismay, a few nights later she saw a figure in a black hood lingering outside her shed. And a few days after that, the same figure was seen lurking around the premises of her home and standing directly under the room in which Mandy, at the time, would have been consoling her sick child. The family has contacted authorities, but there's been no update since. However, I do have goosebumps all over my body right now. Next up, we have the Erickson twins captured on police body cam footage after the officers had been called to the scene to investigate the woman's strange behavior. The Swedish sisters Ursula and Sabina had been seen acting up after exiting a public bus. They tried to board another but were denied entry. The pair made their way over to the highway and they were seen dashing in and out of traffic. When police arrived on the scene and attempted to apprehend the woman, they once again ran into the road until they were both struck down by oncoming vehicles. Ursula suffered severe injuries and Sabina was briefly unconscious but awoke soon after, attacked the officers and refused medical help, which ultimately led to her arrest. Sabina was eventually released, but her freedom didn't last long. Shortly after leaving police custody, she ended the life of Glenn Hollingshed with a large blade after the stranger had agreed to take her into his home so that she could use his phone to contact Ursula. No one knows why either of the women did what they did. There was no evidence of drugs or alcohol involved at either incident, but some have speculated that the twins might have suffered from something called shared psychosis, a rare disorder in which a delusion is shared by two or more people in a close relationship. But what do you guys think? For this next one, we're keeping things somewhat light with a video of an unknown man showing off his leg strength in the province of Shaanxi, China. In security footage captured by the city of Linfen, the man can be seen delivering a powerful kick to one of the concrete columns lining the bridge that he had been walking on. The column, attached to all of the others by a metal chain, falls into the water and then begins dragging the rest down with it. The man who delivered the blow stands back and watches before fleeing the scene. It's unknown why the man decided to kick the column down in the first place, whether or not he knew what would happen or whether or not he was arrested. However, I think we can all agree while vandalism is bad, the domino effect of the columns was pretty satisfying to watch. Next up, we have Peter Bergman, also known as the man who didn't exist. In 2009, the man, presumed to have been in his 50s or 60s, checked into a hotel in Austria under the name Peter Bergman. While at the hotel, he disposed of all his belongings in a purple plastic bag while avoiding security cameras and then went on to purchase 8 stamps from the local post office. Peter went back to the hotel where he was captured on CCTV and grabbed a taxi. The driver dropped him off at Ross Point Beach, and that was the last time the man was ever seen. His body was discovered along the shore the following day around 8 a.m. An investigation began, which led law enforcement to the discovery that Peter Bergman didn't exist. The man had used a fake name and a fake address when checking into the hotel. Not only that, but all of the labels on the man's clothes had been carefully removed so that it would be unclear where he had purchased them from, and his movements prior to the day of his disappearance could not be tracked. While police were able to determine that the man had died of cardiac arrest, they were never able to determine who he was and why he had worked so hard to keep his identity a secret. Next up, we have CCTV footage taken from a home security camera that captured the last known moments of Stephen Kocher before his disappearance without a trace on December 14th of 2009. Stephen had called his friends just 2 days earlier to inform them that he had left his home in Utah to visit Las Vegas, Nevada. However, based on the CCTV footage, his last known whereabouts was Henderson, which is about a 30-minute drive from the Las Vegas Strip without traffic. In the surveillance video, he can be seen parking his car filled with wrapped gifts for his family members on the street of a wealthy neighborhood. After he parked, he got out of his vehicle, crossed the street, and made his way down the road. He was never seen again. No one is sure why he would have parked his car in the neighborhood or what might have happened to him after he did. His cell phone signal was picked up at various locations several miles away from where he left his car, but after 2 days the signal died and the trail was lost. And finally, to finish off our list today, we have the mysterious disappearance of Dale Kerstetter, who was last seen in a surveillance video taken from inside of the glassworks plant where Dale once worked as a security guard. On September 12th of 1987, Dale had been working the evening shift at the plant when all of a sudden an unknown masked man entered the building. Dale was last seen leading the man through the building while staring directly at the plant's security cameras, possibly in duress, before disappearing out of frame. never to be seen again. However, the masked intruder who made off with $250,000 worth of platinum pipe is seen again, wheeling a large bag out of the plant. While some believe that Dale, who had been in debt at the time, was working with the masked man, his family members maintain that he was an innocent bystander in the incident, and that it's likely the bag they saw leaving the plant in the wheelbarrow had contained Dale's body. To this day, no trace of Dale or the stolen merchandise have ever been found, and the case remains a mystery.
One morning at Wellington Indoor Market in Telford, England, workers showed up and immediately knew something was off. Boxes were scattered everywhere, across the floor and down the stairs. The first thought was that someone must have broken in overnight, so they pulled up the security footage, expecting to see a person. What they got instead was a bit harder to explain. They watched as boxes suddenly tipped over and tumbled down the stairs. If you really focus, there is also a dark, shadowy shape moving up the staircase right before it happens. It's faint, but it's there, and what made it harder to brush off is that the market has been around since 1244 and already has a reputation for odd stuff. Staff have said they'll sometimes see strange shadows when working alone, and that one time, 2 people heard coughing in another part of the building only to find it completely empty. Doors slamming and hand dryers turning on by themselves have also been reported. Did you see that ghostly shape move across the field in the background? Nobody noticed it until they played the footage back later. This clip was posted to Reddit by a user named Elizabeth Greengirl88, titled, "Captured a spirit walking behind my husband on a security camera." After people started asking questions, Elizabeth jumped in and explained a few things. The footage came from a security camera that sends alerts to their phone whenever it detects movement. At the time, they were out in their farmland, not near a road or other houses. She said neither of them smokes, and there wasn't a fire going on, so smoke doesn't really make sense, and honestly, it doesn't really look like smoke anyway. They don't have pets, and no one else was around when this was recorded, at least not that they know. She also mentioned that an older man used to live on the land before they moved in, and he'd passed away prior to them buying the property. In 2023, a restaurant in Portsmouth, New Hampshire ended up with a story it didn't expect after its alarm system went off late at night. The place was the Library Restaurant, which sits inside the old Rockingham Hotel, a building that's had a reputation for ghost stories for a long time. After the alarms were triggered, the restaurant shared security footage on Facebook showing what they believed caused it. A few seconds into the video, a white, misty-looking shape floats across the frame. Not long after that, police are seen in responding to the alarm. What made it strange was that the motion detectors that went off were inside the building, even though the movement was only seen outside. In their post, the restaurant explained, "Our building, the Rockingham, is well known for its ghosts, and notably the ones in the library basement. Last night, for the very first time, our motion detector alarms inside the building were set off by this camera motion, caught on video in the dead of night outside the window. The motion detectors inside cannot see what the camera outside sees. It is not lights from the car, because you can see how others are picked up, and there is no horizontal wind blowing, so what can this be? Make of it what you will, but this has never happened before." I don't know where this last clip originally comes from. Seems to be CCTV footage from a cafeteria or maybe a party room, but it is pretty odd. So the room is totally dark and empty, but then the door behind the bar lights up. A figure is standing by it. At first I thought it was just someone opening the door and walking in, but it doesn't quite look like that. I mean, I slowed the clip down and watched it again, and it's almost instantaneous. The door doesn't appear to swing open. Suddenly, there's just this figure standing there, surrounded by light. But it could definitely just be a case of bad camera quality, making it tough to figure out exactly what's going on, but the video continues. The figure moves its way behind the bar, and you notice it's not totally solid. It's this vague kind of white shape. And then the lights flick on, and the figure just isn't there anymore. And someone else walks into the room. They walk behind the bar and don't miss a step. I mean, if someone had crouched down behind there, the person would have noticed them. They certainly wouldn't just walk by like that. I don't know, it's a strange video. Remember the Myrtle's Plantation? I've talked about it on the channel a number of times. It's said to be one of the most haunted places in the United States. Well, now we have some footage. This security camera happened to pick up something incredibly startling during a tour, right in the middle of the day. So the group is standing in the foyer. They're slowly making their way deeper into the home, very slowly, as this is not a group of spring chickens. And then suddenly, this happens. So a series of super loud bangs on the wall are heard, the mirror shakes violently, and then a sculpture falls down. Now, could this have been staged? There's always the possibility, but I hope that's not the case, because if it was, that was pretty messed up. You really shouldn't be playing pranks on old folks like this, especially with loud bangs. So this eerie piece of footage comes from a government office in Mexico City. According to the staff, especially the security guards, strange things were happening there all the time. They said they were constantly getting spooked, but the most disturbing part was that several of them claimed to see some kind of monk-like figure that would appear and harass them. People would also report hearing cries and screams in the early hours of the morning. Then one night, a security camera finally captured this, which looked exactly like the creepy figure that had been terrifying them night after night. Imagine you're alone at home in the middle of the night, cleaning up around the house, when suddenly something cuts through the silence. It's a whisper, and not only is it a whisper, but it's your name. This is what happened to Reddit user IggyTalls_15, who said, "I heard someone very distinctly whisper Mike from behind me. I thought one of my kids had walked downstairs, but when I saw there was no one, I bolted. It was just me and the dogs/cat around 12 a.m. This is also an old home from the 1850s, and a crew member who died in the Halifax explosion lived here in the early 1900s. Take a listen to this and a watch. Security footage from Wellington Indoor Market in Telford, England caught something that left workers a bit rattled the next day. When traders showed up one morning, they found a bunch of boxes scattered across the floor and stairs. At first they thought someone had broken in, of course, but when they checked the CCTV, what they saw was something else entirely. A dark, shadowy figure walking up the stairs and then knocking over the boxes. Now, it's not very easy to make out the figure walking up the stairs, but if you look closely enough, you can see some sort of shadowy shape appear. The boxes falling are clearly visible though. Market manager Kay Bokai said, "We came into the market in the morning and the boxes were all over the place. On the floor, over the stairs. We thought we'd had an intruder, so we obviously went straight to the CCTV. We couldn't believe what we saw. All the hairs stood up on the back of my neck. There was nobody there when the boxes fell off. We watched it again and we could see the shadow walking up the stairs, then chucking the boxes over." End quote. Now, this market isn't new to strange activity. It's been around since 1244. According to Kay, sometimes there are strange things that go on when people are alone. Some people say they have seen a shadow go past them. She also mentioned an incident where, quote, "two people were alone in the market. They were talking when they heard coughing coming from the other side of the building. When they looked around, it was totally empty." Other weird moments include doors slamming and hand dryers turning on by themselves. Who is this staring at the security camera after hours? So a security guard monitoring a CCTV system got an alert that someone was on the property after hours, well past closing time when no one should have been there, other than him, of course. When he checked the footage, what the camera caught was unsettling, to say the least. There's this small, ghostly figure with glowing eyes standing in the distance. Some have said it looks like a little boy, standing there, staring right at the camera. The clip has since been linked to the legend of the Pocong, a ghost from Indonesian and Malaysian folklore. According to the belief, a Pocong is the spirit of a dead person who's still wrapped in their burial shroud. In some versions of the legend, the soul remains trapped if the ties around the shroud aren't removed after 40 days. And the spirit is forced to wander, often appearing as this pale figure with bound limbs and a haunting stare.
First up on our list today, we have the mystery of the Siberian dancing lady. Video footage of the woman first began circulating online in 2019, showing an elderly woman dancing in the streets of Siberia, dressed in traditional Siberian garb. The user who posted it said that they were confused about her behavior, but eventually a stream of comments flooded in, labeling the woman as the Siberian dancing lady and saying that if you were to look look the woman in the eyes without first receiving permission, she would chase you down with a large blade in an attempt to end your life. There is a Siberian legend that tells the story of a woman who fell in love with a man from a different village. However, unfortunately, her family disapproved of the union and she was left heartbroken. It is said that when she died, her spirit could be seen roaming along the countryside, dancing and singing mournfully in the night. Those who were unlucky enough to gaze upon her shadow would be met with misfortune and death. In 2023, more video footage of a strange woman dancing in the Siberian streets was posted online. In one, the woman notices that there is someone filming her and begins charging towards them holding a large blade. Many people also claim to have seen the woman and have theorized that she is either mentally unwell or possessed by the devil. Police have also begun to take these sightings very seriously, and incidents have even been reported on the local news stations, who have warned citizens to seek shelter after dark to avoid a run-in with the unidentified woman. Next, we have footage taken from a passenger aboard an American Airlines flight headed to Orlando from Fort Worth. The woman in the video, later identified as Tiffany Gomez, a former Microsoft employee, can be seen having what can only be described as a breakdown. She shouted at other passengers, claiming that a man near the back of the plane was not real and that the plane would not be making it to its final destination. She was removed from the aircraft and was later captured on police body camera footage inside the terminal of the airport, claiming that the man had told her he had an explosive device. She pleaded with the desk agent and police, begging them not to let the plane leave, saying that once it became airborne, it would blow up. Tiffany later posted an apology video online saying that she was sorry for causing a scene as well as for using profanity aboard the aircraft, but provided no explanation for her actions or the claims that she made in the video. While the plane was okay, many people who watched the apology video have claimed that the woman apologizing and the woman on the plane were two entirely different people, saying that they look nothing alike. Next on our list today, we have CCTV footage that shows the last known location of American-born Maura Murray, who disappeared on February 9th of 2004. 20 years later, in early February of this year, Maura's sister started a podcast in hopes of regaining traction for her sister's case and possibly putting an end to the mystery of Murray's disappearance. On the day Maura went missing, she packed her car and took to the road without telling anyone where she was headed. She was caught on video using an ATM machine around 3:40 p.m. and then continued on her way. Somewhere along the drive, the 21-year-old was involved in a single car crash and police were called to the scene by a bystander. By the time police arrived, however, just minutes later, Murray was gone. It is unclear whether or not she wandered off into the woods or grabbed a ride from a passing vehicle, but either way, she was never seen again. No one knew where she had been going or why she had decided to pack up her entire dorm room and leave nursing school to head north. While some people believe she left because of a ticket she had gotten for a previous crash or a warning she had received for using a stolen credit card number to purchase fast food, her family heavily disputes these claims, as she never received a ticket for the accident and the charges of fraud were dismissed on good behavior. Her mother and father maintain that she was in the wrong place at the wrong time and that whoever picked her up that day on the side of the road is ultimately responsible for her death. Next up, we have the strange last moments of Lars Matank, captured on CCTV at an airport in Bulgaria. You see, in the summer of 2014, Lars and 3 friends had traveled to Bulgaria and stayed at a popular beachside resort. During their time away, they relaxed, swam, exercised, and often went to clubs. Everything seemed normal until it didn't. On the last night of the men's vacation, they had gone to a local bar to watch a soccer game, and while at the bar, Lars got into a fight with a group of fans for the opposing team. The situation escalated and then eventually de-escalated, but after the game, Lars and his friends group left the bar. His friends stopped for food on the way home. Lars, claiming he wasn't hungry, waited outside. When his friends emerged from the restaurant, Lars was nowhere to be found, and it wasn't until the next morning that he reappeared. Beaten and bruised, he claimed he had been jumped by a group of guys hired by the angry soccer fans from the bar. Due to a ruptured eardrum, he was unable to make the flight home with his friends that day, and he stayed in Belgium. By the evening, however, his demeanor had almost completely changed. He was calling his mother paranoid, convinced the assailants were planning to come back and finish the job. When he was finally cleared to fly home, he made his way to the airport, but before he could get on the plane, he became spooked by a construction worker. He could be heard muttering, "I don't want to die here before booking it out of the airport without any of his personal items. And that was the last anyone would ever see of Lars. His behavior and disappearance remain a mystery to this day, but I want to know what you guys think. Was he really being hunted down by some kind of hitman, or might the initial blow to the head have caused Lars to slip into some kind of paranoid manic episode?
The hooded man you're looking at in this series of CCTV clips is the person of interest in the death of a man named Scott Radigan. On January 17th, 2020, police were called to an apartment building in Arlington, Virginia, for a reported cardiac arrest. Scott Radigan's sister had gone into his bedroom after not hearing from him and found him with severe trauma to his upper body. Medics pronounced the 24-year-old dead at the scene. The surveillance footage is the only real lead, but it is limited. The apartment building had been going through renovations and the lobby cameras weren't working. So the only footage police got was from security cameras on the street, showing a person of interest leaving the area around the time it happened. The individual is described as a white male, roughly 5'6" to 5'8", dressed in all black backpack. He also has a distinct pigeon-toed gait with his feet turned a bit inward. It's possible he was walking like that intentionally though, to throw investigators off. Apparently a lot of people close to Scott believe this was not a random act, but a professional hit. But as of recording this video, the case is still unsolved. On February 1st, 2012, 18-year-old Samantha Koenig was working the closing shift at Common Grounds, a small coffee shack in Anchorage, Alaska. The CCTV inside the kiosk shows a man, later identified as Israel Keys, walking up to the window. In the footage, the interaction looks normal for a few minutes. Samantha is seen moving around the small space, getting a drink ready, and talking back and forth with the customer at the window, but then the man pulls out a weapon before jumping through the small service window to get inside. Once he's in the kiosk, he forces Samantha to turn off the lights. Camera quality wasn't great to begin with, but now it's even harder to make out. What is clear though is there's a struggle taking place. You can see him tie her hands and lead her out in the parking lot. Keys later confessed he had been planning an abduction for a while and chose that spot because it was isolated and he knew she'd be alone. After he took her keys, took her life, and then went on a cruise. When he got back from his vacation, he opened Samantha's eyes and took a photo of her holding a recent newspaper to make it look like she was still alive. He used that photo to demand $30,000 in ransom from her family. He was finally caught in Texas after he started using her debit card at different ATMs. Eventually he told police about several other people he unalived across the country before taking his own life in his cell. These are the last images of Rebecca Corium, captured on a CCTV camera on a cruise ship. Rebecca Corium was a 24-year-old crew member working on the Disney Wonder cruise ship when she vanished on March 22nd, 2011, while the vessel was off the coast of Mexico. Now, the actual video hasn't been released to the public apparently. I mean, if you look for it, you'll mostly just find frames and news segments describing what's in the footage. The images we do have come from a camera in a crew lounge around 5:45 a.m. In these stills, Rebecca is seen using an internal ship phone. She's wearing oversized men's clothing, a detail her family found suspicious because the clothes were not hers. From the descriptions of the full video, she looks visibly distressed, pacing and rubbing her forehead during the call. A male crew member eventually walks by and asks if she's okay, and she reportedly mouthed, "Yeah, fine," before hanging up and walking away. That was the last time anyone saw her. When she didn't show up for her shift a few hours later, the ship was searched, but she was nowhere to be found. Disney's investigators figured she was swept overboard by a rogue wave on the crew pool deck, but her family doesn't buy that, pointing out that the railings in that area are high and the water was calm that morning. There are also reports of her credit card being used months after she disappeared. There are tons of theories as to what happened here, but unfortunately the case has yet to be solved. Jennifer Kesey lived in Orlando when she disappeared in January 2006. She'd just gotten back from a trip and had been at work the day before, but she never showed up the next morning. Her apartment showed no signs of a struggle. It looked like she'd gotten ready for work and just walked out the door. 2 days later, her car was found abandoned at an apartment complex about a mile away. The complex had a surveillance camera that caught a person of interest parking her car and walking away at noon. But the footage is incredibly frustrating. The camera was set to take photos at intervals, and in every single frame, the person's face is hidden by the metal bars of a fence. And, because of the way the person was walking and the timing of the camera, the fence post perfectly block their head in every single shot. Police couldn't tell if the person was a man or a woman or what race they were. They could only guess the person was between 5'3" and 5'5" based on the height of the car and the fence. The case has been cold for 20 years. And we're kicking off this list with the ghost patient. In this security camera footage from a hospital in Argentina, we see a security guard sitting at his desk. It's late and there's nobody else in the foyer aside from the guard. At least that's the way it looks to us. We watch as the automatic doors open, as if someone is entering into the hospital. Only there's nobody actually there. Or is there? The security guard seems to think there is, because he gets up from his desk and walks over to check this invisible person in. We watch him talk to what looks like thin air before allowing whoever or whatever it is inside. The guard later said that he had seen a woman walk into the hospital. She said she'd left something in the room she'd been staying in. The staff were of course pretty creeped out by the footage, especially when it was discovered that the name he'd taken down when letting the invisible entity into the hospital was the same name as a woman who had died just the previous day. Coming in at number 9, we have Miss Abigail. In this footage taken in a building in Houston, Texas, we see a security guard once again having a conversation with what looks like thin air. His coworker watching the cameras is filming her screen, completely confused by what she's seeing. Then she radios in to the guard asking who he's talking to. He responds by saying he's speaking with Miss Abigail, who's looking for Mr. Griffin. The coworker becomes even more confused now, saying, "You sure you're saying Miss Abigail? She died 2 years ago." She then goes on to say that there's nobody in the hallway with him. Suddenly it sinks in for the guard and he turns around and starts running down the hallway. Fair enough, that would probably be my reaction as well. Even if this is just a hoax, it's such a creepy idea. Imagine having what you think is just some innocuous conversation with somebody, only to be told, hey bud, nobody there with you. I also have this haunting image in my mind of how this supposed ghost looked once the guard was told he wasn't talking to anyone. Did Miss Abigail disappear? Or even creepier, and what I'm kind of picturing is that she just stood there completely still, staring blankly at him until he ran away. Next on the list we have the poltergeist. In the security footage captured in a 200-year-old school in Cork Island called Deer Park CBS, we see a series of paranormal phenomena take place. First, a door at the end of the hallway seemingly opens on its own before violently slamming shut. Then a filing cabinet or locker starts rocking back and forth out of nowhere. One of the lockers opens up and papers start flying out on their own. A wet floor sign suddenly flips out. I don't know, it spins around and collapses. Whatever was causing this to happen was not in a good mood that night. Number 7, the hospital ghost. This is a story that was posted to Reddit by user Dr. Basio. Goes as follows. I work as a doctor in a hospital in the UK and was on a night shift that was particularly quiet. Some of the nurses were sitting around telling this story. A young doctor was running to a crash call. Our hospital is a giant L shape, with the front entrance being at the bend. A woman stopped him and asked him which way the exit was. He directed her and kept running. When he got to the patient, it was the woman who had asked him for directions. She had died. Apparently it got caught on the CCTV that the doctor stopped running midway down the hallway and gestured toward the exit while saying something to no one in particular. So supposedly, the confused spirit of this patient who had just died spoke to the doctor, who was racing over to save her life. Pretty spooky stuff. And hey, if there's any place where paranormal stuff like this is gonna take place, it's gotta be a hospital. At number 6, we have one that's pretty similar to the Miss Abigail video. This footage was originally uploaded to TikTok by the security guard in the video, Luis de Alvarez, who took it down soon after, utterly traumatized by the entire event. He was working as a night guard and was alone patrolling a floor he was on when he spotted an old lady. We watch as he walks over to who he believes is a person, although we can't see anyone but him in the footage. He begins talking to what he later described as an old lady who was saying she was lost. But another guard tells him over his walkie-talkie that there's nobody there. He's the only one on the floor. The guard was waiting for the elevator, but decided to just leg it out of there as fast as he could. We cut to another angle and he's running through the parking lot and then just out of the building completely. Ran halfway across the city, I'm sure.
At number 5 is the Ventura Bar. It's the dead of the night and chairs start sliding around by themselves. The bar manager shared this video on social media and it gave everybody the heebie-jeebies. Fast forward a few weeks and we've got more chair shenanigans, but this time it's broad daylight and people are watching in disbelief. Did somebody take off a vengeful spirit? That's one theory, and it's pretty eerie. But here's the kicker. This bar isn't your average watering hole. No, it's got a wall filled with pictures of every customer and employee who's passed away. Could this possibly be a ghostly reunion spot? And here in the video at 1 minute and 40 seconds, we might just be getting closer to discovering who these relentless spirits are. At number 4 is the chair out of thin air. Here we've got a spooky video showing a chair materializing out of nowhere. And that's just way more terrifying than just objects moving around. Could this chair possibly be from another dimension, or is there something more sinister going on? Take a look at this clip focusing on the middle desk around 2 minutes in. Between 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 7 seconds, someone must have really ticked off a spirit or something. Now you might be thinking, maybe that chair was hiding in the shadows all along, but hold on, if somebody's under that desk, they would have pushed the chair against the wall, right? So how did it suddenly change direction and keep going? It's a head scratcher. Plus, this was filmed way after working hours, so unless somebody pulled an all-nighter under that desk just for this video, it seems like there's some spooky stuff going on in this office. At number 3 is the ghost alarm. Here's another intriguing clip coming from straight out of the ghost subreddit. This one was shared by user Raman8, and the title simply says, quote, "Something set off the security footage on one of our properties. Nothing was stolen. This is the footage." Take a gander at the video and you might just be up for some chills. Upon first glance, it seems like there's nothing out of the ordinary. But as you look closely, there's actually a shadowy figure lurking in the background, almost as if it's walking through thin air. Now, I know it might be easy to dismiss this as just a camera glitch or something, but that eerie outline of a person should be enough to send shivers down your spine. The Reddit user mentioned that the front door mysteriously opened, triggering the security footage. Could it be the work of a malevolent spirit? Some speculate that the ghost's energy triggered the alarm and opened the door, creating that ghostly appearance on the video. What's your take, internet detectives? Could this be genuine evidence of another worldly entity crossing into our realm? Or is this just a trick of the light and dust playing with our imagination? The user did some follow-up a year later, reporting no other strange incidents and no local spirit activity. It might be a one-time haunting, but it's still pretty unsettling. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts down below. At number 2, the water watches back. Back in 1924, aboard the SS Watertown, a bizarre and chilling incident occurred. You see, 2 crewmen, James Courtney and Michael Meehan, met a tragic end while cleaning the oil tanker's cargo tank. Gas fumes claimed their lives in an instant, and they were given a burial at sea near the Mexican coast. But the horror didn't end there. You see, the very next day, a crew member claimed to have seen their faces in the waves. A ghastly vision lasting a terrifying 10 seconds. This eerie spectacle repeated over several days. When the ship reached New Orleans, Captain Tracy, driven by the inexplicable events, decided to document it. He purchased a camera, and when those spectral faces emerged once again, he captured the hair-raising image you can now see here. Strangely, once this picture was photographed, all the sightings ceased. A spine-tingling tale of the unexplained phenomena that lingers in the annals of maritime history. And at number 1 is the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove. No, not the Madonna of Pop, but a mysterious figure from the afterlife. The Ghost Research Society of America stumbled upon this eerie enigma back in 1991 at the forsaken Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. While Mary Huff took pictures with her infrared camera, everything seemed pretty mundane, but the real shocker came during the development process. In one frame, a woman perched on a tombstone clad in outdated attire, gazing into the abyss. Who was this woman? Well, nobody knows. Was this her own grave she pondered on, or a loved one's? The chilling part is that no one ever saw this woman, yet there she was, captured forever in that still frame, a specter from the beyond. Pretty spooky, right?
What in the world is going on with this pool stick? This one comes from Reddit user Pumpkin Man, who shared the footage along with the caption, "I have a video of surveillance camera footage capturing a pool stick inexplicably snap itself in half on the leg of a pool table. This happened in a children's playroom at a small rural church. There have been dozens of other incidents of paranormal activity at this church, spanning multiple decades. The people, who I know personally, that took this video and work at this church fully believe the place is haunted by a child ghost." Now, I gotta say, I've seen some paranormal videos on this channel before. This one's up there for me. This is pretty weird. The way that thing's moving sounds like they believe what they're seeing. This next video comes from a hospital. A security guard was doing his rounds when he came across this wheelchair in the middle of the room. So he stands there, scratching his head, probably wondering what it's doing sitting there, but then it starts to move. At first he doesn't notice it, but when he turns back to look at the chair, it's of course now facing in the total opposite direction, so all he can do is stand there stunned, likely too petrified to move. It's bad enough worrying about your bike getting stolen as it is without ghosts getting involved. This security footage was captured in Pakistan back in 2020. So what in the world? Now, there doesn't seem to be any strong winds blowing. Of course, there's nobody nearby either. Nothing that would cause the bike to roll on its own like that and then fall to the ground. So what happened? Was a ghost trying to steal someone's bike, then realized that they had no clue how to ride and just ditched it? Probably. But what do you all think? Thoughts in the comments, please. This one comes from Reddit user signalpollution4881, who says he used to work at a haunted movie theater. He shared this security footage of something seeming to move past the camera. Take a look at this. Now, this footage on its own, I mean, it's weird, but it's not that crazy, right? Well, the backstory, there's a lot going on. So he and his brother worked the night shift cleaning the theater, and from their first shift, something felt off. During that first night, the uploader heard a baby crying in an empty auditorium, even though the building had been closed for hours. He searched the entire place, but it was empty. Over the next several months, they experienced odd things, doors opening and closing on their own, unexplained footsteps in the upstairs projector room. Eventually, even his brother, who'd been skeptical at first, became convinced that something was definitely wrong. About 6 or 7 months in, the uploader was alone upstairs when he saw a black figure about 20 feet away. It seemed to have no face. It was just this eerie, shadowy mass. Terrified, he ran off without even saying a word to his brother. From then on, he constantly felt like he was being watched through the projection windows. About a year later, his brother saw a thick black smoke cloud form out of nowhere in the bathroom before vanishing. Shaken, they finally started talking about their experiences. They kept working there though, because the pay was decent and the shifts were short. The activity mostly quieted down, just the occasional mysterious footstep. Sometimes they'd see things moving and would hear disembodied voices. This video came later after they'd already quit. It was sent to him by a former coworker around Halloween and seems to show the same black figure he once saw in the projection booth. These creepy images were shared to X by Scared for Life 2, who wrote that their friend works at Central Library in Manchester. In October of 2019, the uploader popped in for a visit, and the friends shared these images. They came from the security camera in the basement corridors. Now, I don't know about this place having any history of paranormal activity, but it was built in 1934, not super old, especially by England standards, but it is enough time to have racked up some history. And if anyone had died in the building, or was just someone who had a fondness for the place, maybe they never left.
Caught on CCTV cameras. And number 10 is this first demon caught on CCTV. This eerie photograph from 2008 reveals something inexplicable, and it's not a Photoshop trick either. It's a real head scratcher. Neil Sandback, a photographer, was just doing his job, snapping pictures for a couple planning their wedding in Hertfordshire. But when he examined his digital shots, he found a puzzling figure. In the corner of the building, there was a glowing, ghostly apparition of a younger human. human. What's unsettling is the level of detail. You can make out facial features which oddly resemble more of a skull than a human face. Even more chilling, the farm staff had witnessed a similar figure, a young man in white night clothes. Real or not, this one is a bone-chilling mystery. At number 9 is the man on CCTV. A car's dash cam captured something inexplicable. At around 2:30 in the morning, as the car cruised down a desolate highway, a man in blue shorts and a white t-shirt seemed to just appear out of thin air. The car then would go to pass right through him, and when the driver looked back, the mysterious figure had vanished into the night. It's like he just popped out of nowhere, materializing out of thin air from the ether itself. Was this a ghost? Skeptics argue it might be a shadowy illusion cast in front of the vehicle, but the truth remains as elusive as the apparition itself. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. I personally would really appreciate it if you did. At number 8 is the haunted barbershop CCTV. This unsettling video from just a regular barbershop, things take a bizarre turn. You see, at first, it seems just like an ordinary day with someone getting a haircut and the staff going about their business. But then, something spine-tingling happens. The barber's cape mysteriously moves on its own. It's a kind of moment that makes you wonder, did I really see that? So they decided to review the CCTV footage, and that's when the hair-raising reality hits them. Watch closely as the blue cape shifts inexplicably. You might be asking, when will someone notice? And they actually do, and their reaction is exactly what you'd expect. Now, here comes the most hair-raising part. This clip goes on to become even more disturbing, giving you the kind of creeps that make you question the boundaries of the known and unknown, leaving you lingering with that fleeting sense of eerie uncertainty. At number 7 is the Manchester office security footage. Security guards casually scanning through their surveillance screen on the early hours of November 1st were just minding their business, but then the mundane turns into a nightmarish roller coaster ride. You see, at precisely 3 a.m., the entire office undergoes a freakish transformation. All the computer's power go on simultaneously, casting an eerie blue glow. Then chairs begin to take flight, seemingly possessed by an invisible force. Cabinets swing open on their own, and the office paraphernalia dance like marionettes gone wild. A scene right out of a horror movie. Now, what's so peculiar about 3 a.m.? Well, some folks call it the witching hour. The boundary between our world and the supernatural realm supposedly weakens to a thin veil, allowing mischievous spirits to cross over. Could it be that these relentless entities chose this unholy hour to unleash their chaos on this unsuspecting office? Footage certainly raises more questions than it answers. Check it out for yourself. At number 6 is the Croatia found footage. A truly spine-tingling video from Croatia that'll make you question the very fabric of reality as you know it. So when these two guys are just chilling, have a good time, they suddenly spot something bizarre in the distance. At first they're just like, meh, what was that? And even laugh it off, but that's where it gets scary. This eerie figure starts getting closer, and the dudes, well, I mean, they're strangely pretty chill. I mean, seriously, if I saw that thing, I'd be sprinting for the hills. The way it moves is just unnatural and disturbing, but hold on to your horses because it gets worse. When they finally make a run for it, the thing starts chasing them, standing upright like something out of a horror movie. And here's the kicker. The description claims that these guys vanished after this incident. Seriously, you'll want to check out the video and decide for yourself.
Number 5, night shift. Oh boy, working alone at night in a big empty building, just the thought of that sends shivers down my spine. In this story, posted to Reddit by True Denter, they described their encounter with a man who seemingly disappeared into thin air. I used to work at a place which was required to be manned 24 hours a day. Anyways, security is kinda tight. Bars on windows, multiple locked doors to get to where I am. They would give me work to do during the night, but underestimated how quickly I could get it done, so so. Now it's getting to be the last third of my shift when all of a sudden I hear a door close. I look at the security camera and see someone walking down a hall towards my room. First I thought it was just somebody that came in ridiculously early, so I turn around and wait for them to come in, but nobody came in, and the hairs start rising on my back. Now this isn't a really big building, so I figure I'll find the guy wherever he is. I start checking offices and storage rooms, but come up empty-handed. However, I do see that a fire door had shut. I go to try and rewind the camera, but the digital recording is password protected and I don't know the password. Anyways, the whole thing freaked me out. The way the person was walking down the hallway, like a determined walk right to where I was. So I sit with my spine tingling for the last couple hours of my shift, and finally people start coming in. My replacement shows up and I tell her what I saw, and at this point I figure I must have imagined the whole thing. I'm told to go home and the manager and the girl who replaced me would look over the camera. After getting home, I call my manager and ask what was on the camera. So they said that the video showed the fire door closing, but then the video froze for about an hour. The next thing it records is me reopening the door. Next up we have Son's Ghost. In 2019, a woman named Jennifer Hodge received an alert on her phone from her Nest Cam, which detects movement and sound, reading, "Take a look. Your entryway camera spotted a person." She'd been watching TV with her daughter and was about to fall asleep when she got this notification. They looked at the image and it showed what looked to be a ghostly figure standing in their kitchen. Her daughter immediately said, "Mom, look, it looks like Robbie." Robbie was her brother and Jennifer's son, who had passed away 2 years earlier. But they both agreed that the figure in the photo captured by the camera did look exactly like Robbie. They immediately ran to the kitchen, but there was nobody there, and no signs of forced entry either. Hodge described feeling comforted by the situation though, saying, "I felt like he was letting me know he's happy in heaven." Number 3, the bike. This is another story posted to Reddit by user TJS252, who wrote the following. I used to have an apartment pretty close to my office. The office building was kind of on its own relative to the city's commercial district. I sold the apartment, and before moving into my new home, I left my bicycle chained to the building's bike rack. It was only to be there for a few days and that no man's land before I was able to move it into my new place. Anyway, one day in the middle of the week, I come into the office, walk past the bike rack, and notice it's completely empty. The building has a bunch of security cameras, and one more or less is facing the bike rack. I sit and watch the security tape with the IT guy. We're watching, see everyone leave the office the night before, see the bike, keep watching, then all of a sudden, poof, bike gone. We slowed the tape down, and it seemed like when you're watching a digital cable or satellite and the image gets garbled. Literally, it was bike there, then poof, gone. And the tape's timestamp, it literally happened in 1 second. I assume my bike got taken down to the upside down. Coming at number 2, we have the ghost attack. Here we see a security camera footage that looks to be coming from an office or apartment building. We see this guy walking down the hallway when all of a sudden something sends him flying back to the floor. You can see a very obvious dark shadowy shape appear, which then begins dragging the dude down the hallway by the leg. Luckily it doesn't drag him very far before disappearing though, and the man, now free from the mysterious entity's grasp, stumbles to his feet and starts booking it back the way he came. Whatever friend he was seeing, appointment he had booked, whatever it wasn't happening that day. Being violently dragged down a hallway by a shadowy entity kinda has a way of disrupting your plans for the day, I reckon. Now, as to whether this video is real or not, let me know what you think. I think it's a well done video, but yeah, I'm just not sold on the whole ghost thing yet. I wanna be though. And finally, we have the nursing home specter. A security guard named Jay Brown was working the night shift at a nursing home in Chicago when he spotted some sort of ghostly figure floating past the front desk. In this video, he's watching back at the security camera footage as he films, talking about what he saw. If you look closely at the footage, you actually see some sort of misty shape floating around in the corner. You watch as Brown stands up, confused and terrified as to what he's witnessing. At one point, he even throws a book at the ghostly mass, but then he decides to just take a deep breath, calm down, and get on with his shift. You know, stuff happens at work. Rude patients, long hours, sometimes there's a ghost in the corner, you gotta whip a book at and then just get on with your day. Brown stated that whatever the strange entity is, it seems to show up every few months.